Hi guys, George here, Sky of Arizona. I am sitting here with Justin Price, one of our local athletes, and he's going to talk to us about the discipline that he competes in, which is CP, that is short for Canopy Piloting. So Justin, how long have you been competing?
I've been competing in canopy piloting for 11-ish years, about somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your background before starting to compete in canopy piloting?
Well, the cool thing about canopy piloting is, and how I was able to get started in it, is because I didn't really need much commitment from anybody to practice this stuff on my own. So I started off packing, parachutes growing up on drop zones and things like that, and I was always trying to get like a jump in at the beginning of the day and the end of the day and pack the rest, and then able to start doing tandem videos, and so I'm getting time under a parachute quite a bit, and able to take some time and try to get into some competitions just to basically see what I can bring,
All right. So let's talk about CP competitions.
Okay.
Because there's different portions of the competition, and for those who haven't competed before, or someone who's never even watched a competition, what are those portions broken down into?
Well, canopy piloting is basically broken down into two different competitions at the national level, the world level as well, where you have the traditional speed, distance, and accuracy events, and then those you can get individual medals in those. Then there's an overall winner from those three as well. Then there's a separate competition of freestyle where it's just 3 jumps of freestyle, and there's that one overall winner. So breaking down into the first three, the fundamental events, the speed, the distance, and the accuracy. Hopefully, we're gonna post some links to help maybe give you a different view, some competition debriefs that I've had, pointing out some different things to look out for, but just kind of give a brief run through for the events. Starting off with speed, it's basically a 70-meter course with a carve in it, and you have entry gates. You have gates that make up this 70-degree carve. I think it's a 70-degree carve. I could be wrong on the degree of the carve, but so you have these gates that you have to try to navigate under. Imagine there's 2 5-foot gates. You have to break the imaginary plane between the first gates, and then navigate through the whole course while staying underneath those gates, whether it be 1.5 meters for the pro level, or the 2 meter gates for the beginner class.
What portion of you or your...
Dude, it could be your toe, man.
Really?
Oh yeah, as long as if you break the sensors, that's what starts the timer. It's a timed event. So you start the timer once your feet go through, then you have a set of one judge at each set of your gates that's visually looking through the gates to ensure that you've navigated through that gate to continue to get a score. If you come through and you make a gate over here, then as you're trying to turn and carve and your feet come up above that gate, then you get the default score of 3 if you made the entry gates out of possible 100 points.
Okay, 3 out of 100.
3 out of 100. The speed one's a lot of fun too, in the sense of if you're a little on the newer side and there's a little bit of higher winds, it not only becomes a landing competition but a kiting competition, because you can still qualify for a score and have not completed the whole speed course. So we can imagine this carved course. If I navigate through half the course and I get on land and my landing has stopped, I put my feet on the ground and grab my canopy and start trying to run and kite the canopy out the back end, which will then trigger that exit gate to give me my time.
Oh, okay.
If I just do it faster, then I don't have to run, just go through the whole thing.
Right.
And that's what, who gets the fastest time each round gets the most amount of points.
Cool. So someone like you who's competing in the open category, how fast are you guys going?
Yeah, it just depends on what the winds are doing. In general, if we have no winds, we're probably hitting those entry gates going around 75 miles an hour horizontally. And when there's there's some good tail push, maybe we're eclipsing those entry gates like 95 miles an hour, something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you have to be super precise.
Yeah, now I'm talking about these speeds. Now you're making me nervous about that.
So we talked about speed. And then you said that there was distance. So how is flying a distance round different than flying the speed rounds?
Well, from my point of view, I kind of imagine like this speed course is this finite distance that I'm just trying to like cram all this speed through it and like attack these entry gates as like much as possible and then get away with whatever I can get away with through the course. And distance is not, I can't do that. I can't have that same approach. It has to be more like this, like I'm just trying to like just have this rock that I'm trying to skip off the water and have a little bit more of a gradual approach into it to kind of generate speed and create it into lift and try to sustain that lift for a longer period of time. So the differences of how you approach it can be different, but at the end of the day, you still have these gates that you have to try to hit. And if you're at the pro level, well, now you have to try to drag the water as you go through those gates. The intermediate level is you just have to break that 5 foot gate, that 5 foot plane again, and then stay below that altitude until you get to the 50-meter gates. And then after you get to the 50-meter gates, then you can travel and try to climb up to get a little bit more distance as well. But it's generally the same thing.
So in your category, open category, you're saying you're touching the toe with the water? Do you have to leave your toe or your foot in the water for a certain amount of time, or is it basically
it's before the entry gates?
Just before the entry gates, touch your foot in the water and then enter the entry gates.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what if you don't do that? What if you don't touch the water?
Then you get the default score of actually I don't even think you get the 3 points on that one.
Oh man.
But then there is that kind of goes to the accuracy, which the accuracy is, I definitely recommend people practicing it. Like if I was to have 10 jumps, I would, slated for me training for a day, I would do 6 accuracy jumps, 2 speed, 2 distance. Because when you're starting off, accuracy is really important. And it gets a bit trickier too on how the scoring is. I'm not going to get into the details of how the scoring goes exactly, but you have to show control as you're dragging through. There's 4 sets of gates on the water, and each set you have to drag through the whole thing. Your foot has to stay on the water. Then you get the points for each gate. Each gate is worth more points at the beginning, more points at the end, less in the middle. Then you have to try to navigate over some lower scoring zones and then try to land in a 2 meter by 1 meter box to get the high score. Okay. And ideally standing up. If you don't stand up, you lose 10 points.
Okay. But if you like hit it with your feet and then kind of crumple over, that's considered not standing up?
That's down.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to show control.
Okay.
Show control. Hand down, man down.
Okay, so now that you talked about those 3 things, which of those 3 events is your favorite? Do you have one?
I really like accuracy. Accuracy is a lot of fun. It's a good challenge. I tend to have performed better in speed when it comes to national level events and world level events, and speed and freestyle are like the only events I've medaled in on a world or a national level. Okay. Yeah.
So beyond that umbrella of CP events, because you said those 3, yep. Then you have like a combined score. Yep. Then there's a separate event, which is freestyle. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Freestyle is controlled crashing. Some people can do it way better than others, and there's a bunch of different. It's getting more and more popular. To me, it's always been quite popular. But there's a bunch of different things you can do, like that's considered freestyle that you may not think is freestyle. There are simple things that you could do and score that's freestyle. Like one of the things, you can come in, drag 1 foot, and keep your other leg up like this. I think it's a T or a crane, and that's freestyle. Okay. You don't always have to be spinning around and doing all like dropping things, and so there's obviously the easier tricks are worth less points, right? And the harder tricks are worth more, and then that's where freestyle gets kind of a little foggy in how things are scored. There is a pretty good structure of how things are scored, like time on the water, like how well you executed the maneuver, and so everything's all kind of like percentage wise, but everything's all subjective. So there's always gonna be like, oh, I like the way that looked a little bit better than the other person's trick that could be really close to the same. But it's fun. It's fun to try to do, and it's fun to get wet. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, like. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. So a little bit of it is the judges know that's a difficult thing to do, and then they also have a like how well you achieved it, how well you looked,
Executed it. Yeah.
That's cool. You do have a world medal in freestyle?
I do, yeah.
You do?
I
Yeah,
do.
you just kind of forgot about it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I seriously think I got it because my family was there and they were right behind the judges, and I'd come through and they'd be like, yeah, and they were like cheering their butts off. And so I think that probably, bumped up my scores a little bit because it's all subjective.
Yeah, that's true, but you have to do the difficult stuff.
Yeah. But so that my family got that one for me. Speaking
of getting wet, this is just a personal question. Like how hard is it on your gear? I mean, I guess like you guys are jumping like, you have a lot of gear on, obviously, that's costs a lot of money. When you get it wet,
yeah.
How do you guys like, oh, I got wet that round, pack it back up, go jump it again? Do you spend some time like trying to dry it out? Do you swap out and just grab a whole new canopy?
Yeah, I mean, it could be personal preference. I mean, it also too depends on the situation, the scenario. Like if I'm doing freestyle and I come in and I crash and I get pretty wet, I know I'm gonna do freestyle again. I'm just gonna pack it up. If I have like an accident, like my canopy, my equipment gets submerged, and I'm already kind of questioning, like, man, should I even continue, competing?
Yeah.
Then like cool, then pop the reserve. But you can get the gear. It's fresh water, so you can get the gear a little wet, and it's not gonna cause much long-term damage if you unpack it when the competition's over. But I think the important thing is if you are interested in competing and you're trying to load up and put weights on, is knowing that there are requirements for for national events about having a quick release system on your belt. So if you are in the water, the support staff or the medics can pull off the weight belt and help drag you out of the water, which it never works out that way, but it's kind of required to have a belt.
Yeah, they don't want you like being an anchor to the bottom.
Yeah, people usually just drag them out and then start taking the gear off. But so yeah.
All right, so let's talk about if I wanted to start working my way towards where you are right now.
Yep.
How do I go about doing that? How do I eventually compete?
Yeah.
In CP?
Have you gotten any canopy coaching?
Just a little.
You got a little bit?
I definitely could use more.
And you've been working on your accuracy a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I know this.
Yeah, he's been coaching.
Yeah, so you're working on your accuracy.
Yeah.
And you kind of have this path of how you're going to, because you're working on your pro rating.
Correct.
So you have this path on how you're going to become this better, accurate pilot. Yeah, you've kind of created that path with getting some coaching, and you've already got tons of experience, and you train as well, so you know how you should approach this.
Yeah.
So you've already got a head start on it.
Okay.
So getting some coaching specifically on high performance turns and maneuvers, if it's something that it's completely new to you, or if you think you've been doing it but you've just been kind of teaching yourself, getting some good coaching and some guidance in that area is going to help. But I think the biggest thing is getting out there and going to the meets.
Okay.
We've had one Florida League meet already this year. There's another one this month. You go to those meets, you meet people that are close in your areas, and then you can get together, make some camps where you come out early to Skydive Arizona and train on the pond when it's ready. And then when nationals rolls around, you've already had an opportunity to train here and jump here. And I think that's some of the tricks of the trade, getting to a drop zone with a little bit of time to get acclimated and used to the area, is kind of like what makes it easier for them to perform at a bit of a higher level. So get to the drop zone early, and not even for that comp, get there a couple months early and do a week of training, and that's how you get better with groups of people, and then you just keep applying yourself to these comps, and maybe get some sponsorship or something.
Okay, some solid advice.
Yeah, because in reality, the next member of the PD Factory team is probably going to be somebody who's competing and not being a full-time skydiver at your home drop zone, just doing beer line swoops all day.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about meets, you said FLCPA.
Yep.
Training camps.
Yep.
And we have FLCPA's last meet of the year is going to be, how do they find Obviously, there's, I'm sure, a website.
Yeah, so if you go to swoopleague.com, swoopleague.com, and then you can go to the events, and you can see we can go register. And,
oh, look at that! There's a beginner category.
Yeah, and there's 3 different categories in the FLCPA. At nationals, there's only going to be 2. And also, if you go to the swoopleague.com, it'll also have references where you can find the United States Parachute Association Skydivers Competition Manual, USPA SCM. And there's a link that has the rules on there, because there's a lot of small things, and in some of the videos that we're going to share the link, kind of go over some of those details, but know the rules. There's super small things that you can get a score and just do something super small and lose your score. So look at the rules, and there's also areas where you can see the rules and see, like, hey, what canopy I have and what category I can compete in, because there's rules for that. So you can't be on a Peregrine, you know, competing in the beginner category.
I did see Sabre 2 on the list, so I know that's like a pretty common canopy. I'm sure, like, now that Sabre 3's on the market and people are out there flying it, it's probably in the beginner category as well. Yeah.
So there's the open. And hold on, we call them 2 different things, and I'm not sure why, but for nationals, there's pro and advanced, and for the Swoop League, there's open, beginner, and intermediate. The intermediate being the lower level introductory class to compete in, and they have different lists of canopies that you can jump for each of those different categories.
Cool. Yeah. So go to swoopleague.com to just learn more about their meets that they have. It looks like they've got links to courses and previous scores, upcoming events. So I think that's a really good website to just learn more about CP in general. Even if you're not near or around Florida, you'd probably gain a lot from just looking at this website. Any other tools other than, you know, finding a good coaching, right? You got like Flight 1 courses that they can take.
Go jump.
And
jumping helps.
Liner's coming in. Pond's gonna be ready-ish soon. Fingers crossed. Let's go to Arizona, and we'll have some, hopefully some coaching or some camps, I would think, maybe to help people who've never swooped over a pond before.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you updated on that. Justin's gonna give me some links to some of his personal jumps, competition jumps, and kind of a super detailed walkthrough of all the jumps. So if you are interested in competing, those are gonna be a great tool as well. Yeah, it's also a fun thing to watch. So if you're not a skydiver, or if you're not a canopy pilot focused skydiver, it's just really fun to watch. So we're excited for nationals coming in October. I think your guys' first practice day is like the 16th, I think, of October. So yeah,
I'm
stoked.
Far away. It's so far away.
Oh, it's gonna happen. It's like time flies, man. It's gonna be here soon. So I'm excited. Thank you for taking your time, for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me.
And yeah,
go get your swoop on.